When you push the leaders, they will claim that they still believe that Assad will survive, hence no need for engaging in that kind of scenario building. But it doesn't mean that they are not engaging in this kind of scenario building. Their concern, if Syria were to degenerate into civil war, is the impact inside Lebanon. That's their main concern right now, which the spillover, as I said, in the north, but also in the rest of the country. And what will that mean for Hezbollah's ability to manage and the domestic front? And whatever happens in Syria, their worldview is how will that affect Israeli calculations? You know, that's how they are thinking. Is not what's that's the framework through which, in my opinion, they analyze the implication of Assad's fall. Now, what will the collapse of Assad mean for the alliances inside Lebanon? For example, the position of people like Berri, the position of people like Jumblat, who right now are in the camp of Hezbollah. Will that free that? Will that push that alliance to break up? And there is a lot of betting that Jumblat, for example, is already, hedging and will be ready to switch camps as soon as the fall happens, thus denying Hezbollah's the ability to be in control of the government in a way, the way they are right now. So that's a kind of implication they are thinking through. However, whatever will happen in Syria, based on their calculation, it's going to take a long time in the coming. It's not going to happen over time. That if the collapse is going to take place, it's going to unfold over a long period of time. And within that timeline, they will be repositioning and recalibrating their positions domestically accordingly.
Thank you. Let's open the floor to questions. For those of you in the overflow room, I think you've seen the question cards. There also happen to be 2 seats in the front if you want to come back, want to come through and around and take them. If not, we'll take a question at a time. We'll start with this gentleman. Please identify yourself.
Hussein Ibn Yusuf, International Petroleum Enterprises. Thank you so much for the presentation. You kind of focus on the fault lines and the problems in Lebanon, but the fact of the matter is that Lebanon is probably the most stable country in the Middle East and North Africa.
Right now.
Right now, and despite the fact that it's also unique in a sense that there is no production of oil and gas in Lebanon. And
yet.
Again, that's the only country in the entire region that has not that capability, unfortunately. Not yet.
Not yet.
But 3 questions. On the issue of the Sunni-Shia divide that has been, everyone kind of emphasizes on, the fact of the matter is that Alawites were not even accepted within the Shia community until about half a century ago, despite the divide that has been in existence for 13th century. And it's kind of interesting that in Lebanon, they even have their own group, and they're not within the accepted group within the Shia community, which is kind of unique, and I hope you can shed some light on that. On the secularism that you mentioned, the fact of the matter is that both Syria and Iraq were in fact secular states, probably the most secular states in the region. And also the Ben Ali and Mubarak, they were secular, and they were pushing secularism there. So is that really an issue? And the final question...
I'm sorry, can we leave it at 2 questions? Because we have... Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you want to take all the questions and then we can start grouping them?
Do you
yeah.
That
yeah.
Way? All right, I have another question here.
Mona Yakubian, U.S. Institute of Peace. Do you want me to start? Can you hear me okay?
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Randa, thanks for an excellent presentation. I want to pick up a little bit where you left off. And in particular, I would agree with your assessment that what we're witnessing in the Arab world is essentially transformative and that there is no going back. Does Hezbollah see it that way? One gets the sense that they haven't fully taken on how significant these changes are, so that they look, as Kate used the word, anachronistic. And one wonders, could you give us a little more insight into how they view what's happening?
Take this question from the overflow room, and then why don't you answer these three, and then we'll keep going. This is from Mukhtar Ahmed of the State Department. How do you evaluate Mikati's interaction with Hezbollah? Is he strong enough to push Hezbollah out from future governments? And second question, what role can Lebanese Christians play to gain Syrian, Mukhtar, I can't read your handwriting, to calm Syrian, what role can Lebanese Christians play to calm Syrian something or other? So just focus on the first question. Sorry.
Okay. Regarding the Alawite Shiite, as you know, it was Musa Sadr in 1976 who issued what's akin to a fatwa, claiming that Alawite is an offshoot of Shiism, and thus legitimizing them in the world of Islam. The Alawites have always, existed. There has been movement back and forth across the borders between Lebanon and Syria, and being a group, a community that has its distinct viewpoint, yet very much aligned with where Hezbollah is right now, is something that's part of Lebanon's political landscape right now. Now, in terms of Syria and Iraq, whether secularism is what is at issue right now, I think there has been a lot of questions about the role of Islamists in these revolution and uprisings. And more we are seeing Arab societies and Arab publics somehow presenting a view about the role of Islam in their midst that is not necessarily in line with what we in the West have expected it to be. The recent public opinion poll conducted by Al-Ahram Strategic Center showed that in the upcoming elections in Egypt, that the Muslim Brotherhood Party will gain anywhere from 30 to 35% of the seat, unlike the estimates that they will garner much more of the seats. Secularism is going to be an issue going forward because of the model that Turkey is providing. And there is more and more, a public awareness of the relationship between secularism on one hand and economic development on the other hand. And the more Turkey comes to embrace the role that Premier Erdogan would like it to have, the more this issue of how you marry Islam with secularism, the relationship to economic development, will be on the rise going forward. And how Hezbollah will deal with this issue, being definitely closely identified with a particular form of Islam is something to be watched going forward. I mean, Hezbollah has always tried to maintain its links to leftist secular forces in the Arab region. Whenever they organize their annual resistance conference, many of the attendees are not only Islamists, but also people from the left, political parties, as well as scholars and activists who are well known for their secularism, yet they endorse Hezbollah's struggle against Israel and the US. So this is something that is still in the beginning, and the tension or the competition going forward between the model that Iran provides on one hand and the model that Turkey provides on the other will, at the heart of that competition, will be this issue of secularism and where is the role of Islam in all of this debate. Now,